thought might be a little bit better, have better averages at this point.
Coach Childress did mention, because I talk to him every Monday, and he did mention, some of the players involved with the offense injured, started the year injured,
Yeah,
and then you throw in weather.
yeah,
There is an expectation the offense will improve. And
yeah,
here's the key:
yeah.
if they're going to win with this pitching that we saw on a regional weekend, because they played what would be a great regional. If you think about it, that's if they went to a regional and had Baylor, TCU, and Houston, that'd be one of the toughest regionals in the opening round. Overall strength of. Well,
It would have been like it had been kind of like the regional when they went down to Houston a couple of years ago. A lot of really solid teams.
no elite.
Do we know if there
It
was?
doesn't have a one seed. You have three
Yeah, yeah,
twos.
yeah. You have
Three
three twos.
twos
Yeah,
and no one.
there
And
you go.
that would grade out as the
That's
toughest regional.
that's a solid regional.
So we showed that they could dominate it. But point being, how much does the offense have to improve to have a little breathing room for a pitching staff that's that dominant? Because we're trying to think of maybe offense, what the number they need to hit 305 and they need 10 home runs. You know what I mean? Maybe we need to stop thinking on the offense to that scale rather than just go, where do they need to get to support the pitching? That's the real thought process.
What's funny is they're actually, they've there's been a few games obviously they haven't scored, but I mean they're still scoring some runs once in a while, which is amazing considering what those numbers that we just read off.
Well, the numbers
So,
are even inflated by the 19-run game, and how many of those were earned?
Yeah, not many because there were 7 errors in that game.
Right. So
and I think A&M got like 16 free bases that game. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that is one thing you give them credit though for. They'll take advantage of the other team's mistakes.
the
And
offense doesn't have to go far to support the pitching they have. And
That's
then
the
you know
thing.
what the end,
That's the
end
thing
goal.
you got to be feel good about is that it, I don't think it can get any worse hitting wise for them. I mean, we know there's all of them have hit better that have been here, so it's got to improve, or it doesn't have to improve, but you got to feel like if it's going to go one way or the other, it's going up. And if it goes up, if you're 13-2 right now, and I know wasn't outside of that last weekend wasn't the greatest of opponents, but if you're 13-2 and that hitting goes up, who knows?
I would also throw in, the offense doesn't have to go far because I'm looking for the positive side. It doesn't have to go that far to be good enough, but also they just need like a 4-5-6 consistent, again not high level to support the 1-2-3.
Oh yeah, you definitely need that because I mean,
Because in other words, they're not going to be 9 deep. They don't have 9 hitters, and that probably won't happen this year. That they're all of a sudden going to evolve to hitting up and down the lineup. I know that's what every coach says. They just need a 4-5-6 to complement the 1-2-3.
right.
Because the top of the order is actually pretty strong overall, and they're getting there.
I mean, we just talked about Blom,
Right.
Foster, and
the 1-2-3
Shoemake.
is kind of fine,
Yeah.
and I will say, really good.
You can live with. Well, yeah.
They're getting there.
Really good?
You see it. You see
Yeah.
it with them.
Yeah.
You see how slow start, 15 games. They're good. 1-2-3. I see all the parts there, but then there's nothing else after that. It's kind of like a cliff.
No, but there is some potential there. I think Frizzle's some potential. I think Walters is potentially good there. But again, you're asking for 3 more guys to step up, and essentially, once you get the SEC, you might be saying, hey, we need more guys to step up. And by stepping up, if they hit 250, that might be stepping up. 1, because that steps up for them on their averages, and 2, because they're facing pretty good pitching. So that is a step up to be hitting 250 against
And
some
you
of that.
don't have to go
pitching.
that far to support this pitching.
No.
When we come back, we'll wrap things up with Rich Kroom of the Eagle.
Good afternoon, Bryan College Station. Welcome to the Beliucci Hour Lunch live on Sports Radio 1150 The Zone 102.7 FM. I am your host, Ryan Brauninger. We've got a semi-crowded tap on Harvey Road today on this Thursday. I hope that you are wearing your shorts and T-shirts as we've finally got some weather. I walked outside this morning and I saw the high today was going to be 78. There's no way that I was putting back on any of those hoodies or long pants again. So starting to feel a little bit like spring. Hopefully that will hang around for a little while as we head into the weekend and head into the remainder of March. And Aggie football spring practice is on the horizon. But for the remaining time today, if you're driving around, want to come hang out and talk Aggie sports with us from now until 1 o'clock and check out the Tab's great lunch menu, $8.49 burger basket. $8.49, I can't read whatever that other thing is. Yeah, he's screaming at us. Pork sliders. Pork sliders is the other special today. $8.49 pork sliders comes with fries and a drink. A lot of stuff to get to today. Aggie baseball 5-0 are on a 5-game winning streak. Two midweek wins over. They had last night was Abilene Christian, and then Tuesday night was Corpus, A&M Corpus Christi, and again, you just got to take these 5-game weeks when they back to back on you. Can really stretch your pitching, and then with A&M losing Jonathan Childress having to go into the bullpen early on Sunday against U of H, you wondered how they'd manage these two midweek games. And, I think caught a little bit of a break against Corpus Christi that you only had to play 7 innings. Now, I don't know. Apparently that came as a surprise to everybody in both clubhouses. It came as a surprise to Dave on the radio. I was listening to Dave, and Dave couldn't really figure out what was going on, but I think it was in the contract that should there be a 10-run rule that the game would end after 7 innings. So you saved a couple of innings there for arms, and then last night we were able to run out, I think, 6 arms last night. I couldn't remember. And had 8 arms last night in a win over Abilene Christian. And listen, people had wondered about the offense, and I know it's 2 Southland Conference schools, but the offense, the bats did look better in the midweek. Right now, Logan Foster, Bryce Blum, and Cam Blake are kind of leading the line there in terms of the Aggie offense. It's good to see Cam Blake starting to get a run of games. A little bit unfortunate coming back off a labrum surgery and labrum injury that didn't play much last year and got a chance to start the season and ran into the wall a couple of times. Got a concussion the first time, and then the second time he runs into a wall, he gashes his head open and requires stitches. So just need to get him healthy and get him back in the lineup because I think he really brings something to this offense, a consistent, steady bat, not a high strikeout guy with a good feel for the strike zone. And then I wrote about it last night on TexAgs, just the progression of Logan Foster from his freshman year to where he is now and what kind of hitter he's turned himself into. That's a credit to Will Bolt, but it's also a credit to the kid, swallowing a little bit of pride and understanding that got to cut that swing down some and make more contact. And he's still, when he hits the ball, man, he hits it so stinking hard. And, Braden Shoemake has started to make a little noise and come out of his early season doldrums. So you kind of like where the Aggie offense is. And just talking to some team sources last night, they haven't lost confidence in themselves as hitters. They all believe they're still really good hitters. They just need a weekend or a span of games to get everybody believing back in the kind of hitters that they are and seeing the results match that belief. So Friday night, tomorrow night at Olson, 6:30 first pitch against Gonzaga, a Gonzaga team that probably will win the West Coast Conference, will be probably, if I had to bet right now, probably a regional team, and they're going to roll out a guy tomorrow night on the mound that's going to be as good as just about anybody in the country, in the Southeastern Conference, especially in terms of draft projectability. This kid is very highly touted amongst the scouts. So if you're headed to Olson tomorrow night, you'll get to see a primetime pitching matchup. What we've learned so far in this Aggie baseball season, that regardless of what happens with the bats, on Friday and Saturday, you're going to have an outstanding chance to win a baseball game because of John Doxakis and Asa Lacy. As of right now, there's one, I think the 2 starters from Mississippi State are the only people in the country coming close to the numbers that Dox and Asa are putting up. As of right now, you've got the best 1-2 punch in America. Now, we'll revisit that, and we'll revisit a lot of this stuff that we're saying about this baseball team after next weekend when Vandy comes into town, because that will be the first big test for this A&M team, especially in terms of you kick off the conference season and you kick it off with the number 1 team in the country. Luch?
I just gave Gabe a good laugh. I called him, and he's been on hold for like 9 minutes about 6 minutes since I talked to you.
You left him on hold?
It was one of those call, and then someone called 10 seconds later. I said, hey, Gabe, hold on. I'll be right back.
And he's held?
And he held because, sometimes I'll do that sometimes too. If you're like doing something where you just have your phone on speaker and you're not really worried about it, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here.
He actually told me that whenever you do that to him, that now he's going to just see how long he has to wait and see if he's just for completely.
Well, he had a 6-minute job there, and then I get back, and when I hung up the phone with the other person was right when I walked up here, so he could hear you talking, and I said, hey, Gabe, I'm going to have to let you go. He starts laughing. He goes, I know.
Anyway.
Dude, what is that?
I don't know, somebody whistling back here. Anything that stand out to you in 2 midweek wins? And we always start with baseball and get your thoughts on it. But
do we always start with
it's
a new thing?
Gonzaga.
I realize that.
Gonzaga this weekend. Really won't know anything until how interested will you be next weekend? Next Thursday.
Vandy.
With Vandy.
Yeah, I'll wait till then, but I like them continuing to win. I mean, look, they lost those couple.
There's people all across the country dropping midweeks.
Yeah, everybody. But and they lost. We're not used to it around here, and that's one thing that Rob Childress. I mean, they almost never lose those. Even the last few years to the higher profile, but they almost never lose to those teams that quote unquote shouldn't beat you. Mm-hmm. But what we forget is it happens to everyone in the country almost every year. Didn't
Florida,
Texas lose a couple? Florida lost to what? North Florida?
Florida has lost to North Florida, Central Florida, South Florida, and Florida Gulf Coast.
They're getting dominated in state. But, I mean, who'd Texas lose to? UTSA? So, I mean, it happens all the time. And we've been pretty spoiled in that department. A&M has fattened up on those teams over there. So, when you lose a couple like they did – you better sit there and say, okay, it's better to win those than lose them. I mean, you're supposed to win them, but you don't always do it. So
you don't want it to get to a situation at the end of the year where you're either on the bubble for getting in or on the bubble for hosting, and you've got some midweek Southland Conference losses that are just dragging.
Like Florida has right now.
And they're just dragging that RPI down. And
plus the thing is, with the weekend they had in Houston – you want to build momentum. It would be great for them to, and it's. You told me Gonzaga has a quality Friday night pitcher, but it'd be great to sweep them and roll into Vandy. Roll in there on a 9-game winning streak. Sweep them, win your midweek, and roll into that thing.
That midweek next week is, I believe, it's Dallas Baptist at Dallas Baptist. So, and that's another regional team. So, the schedule. It's not great early. And I think me and you both agree we would love to see them play maybe a Big Ten team or a Big East team, early.
If you're going to play the Zags, I'd like it to be a West Coast, more of a West Coast
Irvine.
power. Yeah, somebody.
Yeah.
I'm
not saying Fullerton's got to come in here. Or
why not?
I mean, if you wanted to do that, but I get the SEC schedule, just like in football. The SEC schedule is such a bear. And then when you add like a team like Clemson in football to it, it's a longer season, not much as much as rides on every game.
Yeah.
But Indiana
that's my only
or
thing
Penn State or something.
My only thing is it's not much rides on every game, and I just think it would be – it's a good test. I mean, this year when you go play TCU and Baylor – and U of H in Houston, I'm better with it. Like last year in that one they played in Frisco, that was pretty weak, really, and they lost to La Tech and Baylor. To me that was a weak field. So if you're going to play the Houston one, that really is that's kind of it's the same thing of what I'm talking about is playing that premier non-conference series. I mean, it was 3 games against TCU, Houston, and Baylor. How is that different than 3 games against
Irvine, you compared to what Texas has done this season. They started at Louisiana Lafayette, which is a really good program, and then you have LSU come in the non-conference. And guess what? They went 5-1 in those 6.
Yeah. Now, with that said, I will go against myself here and my desire to see them toughen up the non-conference a little bit and say, to go back to your point, the Big 12 should be pretty god awful in baseball
Yeah.
this year outside of the top
Yeah,
3.
Texas, TCU, Baylor.
There might be 4 teams out of 10, and
Oak State's
and in the
down.
SEC
Yeah.
you're going to play.
Dude.
If you're ranking 1 to 15, 10 of them are in the SEC.
Oh, no question. Like I said on Monday,
11
11 ranked in the SEC.
Yeah.
A&M's number 20. They're 9th of the 11 ranked.
Yeah.
It's set a record for college baseball. Never seen anything like it.
It's kind of like recruiting. It's kind of. I'll say
It's like
this:
just about everything except for basketball.
every sport in the SEC pretty much is like that. I don't know that volleyball is. I'm not sure soccer is, but I mean, you look at it: softball, women's basketball, track and field, golf, football, baseball. What else? I mean, basketball is getting there. Basketball might get 8 in. They probably won't, but they might get like.
Who's the 8th?
I said they probably won't, but
Arkansas and Bama.
a couple of them
Bama's
fell
on that
off.
bubble, yeah.
But I'm saying the SEC used to be weak in basketball. It's no longer weak. It's now. It really is right there with the rest of them.
Like with every sport, like all these other conferences that want to pump their chest when they beat the SEC, it's not about a one-off. It's not about a Texas versus Georgia in a bowl game. You know, it's not about a West Virginia versus Kentucky in a basket. I'm just coming up with stuff.
Yeah.
You know, in a early December basketball game. It's about having to do that week in and week out, where you don't get to go to Lawrence, Kansas in football, you know, or you don't get to go to West Virginia in baseball and have a weekend where I don't play well, but I still win or sweep. Like that's the issue here, and I don't think a lot of other conferences see that.
It's I've said it a million times. You talk to any coach, any player, anyone that's been affiliated with the SEC, and they know what you're saying, and they'll readily talk about it. Those that have left the league, and they understand. Like, yeah.
What was A&M's easiest road game in football for you last year in the conference?
At South Carolina.
Where does that rank amongst the Big 12 road venues if you've got to go there? Third?
You got Texas and OU, but really, I mean, the atmosphere there at either of those places is no better than a big game atmosphere at South Carolina.
I agree.
It's not. I mean, in terms of how tough the game is, it's probably middle of the pack in the Big 12. Like, OU would have been tougher, Texas would have been tougher. But, I mean, South Carolina could have played with, who else in that league last year? West Virginia. South Carolina, West Virginia would probably be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm telling you right now, I've had a lot of experience in talking to people the last 7 years that have coached around college football that come into the SEC and they talk about the difference that have been outside of the SEC. You look at people like Trevor Knight that played in the Big 12, played in the SEC. You look at guys coming from other places, and they'll tell you readily, like, this is a completely different thing, and it's because of not only that you have no mental off weeks really in conference. Everyone talks about on national media, that November bye weekend for the SEC. It's like it's the weakest argument I've ever heard when you got teams like Rutgers and you've got Rutgers, you've got Kansas, you've got Oregon State, a lot of times Colorado, and then that doesn't even mention the middle of the pack. It's the week in and week out physical and mental grind. Mm-hmm. It's the venues at which you're playing. It's the stadiums that you're playing in, whether that's football or baseball or whatever. There's no comparison. There really isn't. And anyone that has covered college football nationally knows that. Mm-hmm. And they are aware of it. TV knows it. That's why when you watch the Big 12, the broadcast looks like crap. The announcers suck. It's the B team. It's the B team.
Is it because
and there's a reason why.
Well,
the times suck. Everything about it is terrible, and it's because their league is less. It's a lesser league, and they get lesser broadcasters. They get lesser time slots. They get lesser television
lesser
contracts.
Money. Yeah.
There's a reason why those things are happening. It's not because people, just line up for SEC bias. It's because it's the best, and they
reality,
bring
yep.
so. And it's the same thing in baseball. So I want them to extend this winning streak because they're going to need to roll into conference with momentum because obviously, like we're saying, they get thrown right into the fire with Vandy.
On the other side of the break, we'll turn our attention to football. You listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on The Zone. Here at the Tap on Harvey Road. Don't forget, Monday nights here at the Tap, karaoke night, Wednesday nights, piano bar, Tuesdays and Fridays, Crawfish Bowl, starting at 6 p.m. Tap's always got something going on. For more information, visit their website, tapbcs.com. Luch, I want to turn the page a little bit, talk a little bit Aggie recruiting. Had one of the bigger pieces of news we've had in a while yesterday. Texas A&M, former Texas A&M offensive line commit Akinola Ogunbi from your alma mater, Fort Bend Kempner. Opens up his recruitment. Something we thought may happen. You know, we hearing back and forth that A&M had done better with him, but just for whatever reason, never felt like he was going to stick around after the coaching change. Where does A&M go? Is that a huge blow?
No, it's not a huge blow, but I think he's a good player. I think A&M would have liked to have signed him, and I think they need to sign linemen of his caliber and better. You know, I don't think I think he's a good, solid offensive guard prospect. I think he can play, and I think he's going to be a player at the college level.
It was going to take some refinement because of the offense he plays in right now. Yeah,
at my high school.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have seen them land a guy from from my alma mater, which they've never done since, ever, actually, since it's been a school, because I was a freshman when the school started. They've never signed a Texas A&M football or basketball, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Gutierrez a couple of years ago was the first baseball player I remember.
Really? Wow.
And they've actually had some really good baseball players. I mean, they had a guy drafted in the first 2 rounds last year.
For a school that rocks the maroon and white.
Yeah. You would but here's the thing, Brauninger, and we talked about this. Kempner was when I was in high school was one of 4 schools in Fort Bend ISD, so there was a lot of talent at Kempner. And a lot of these guys now from where they live that would have gone to Kempner were like Russell Okong, Eric Young. You remember the Darling. Basically anybody that went – Troy O'Meara, 100% would have been – anybody that goes to Fort Bend Austin, Fort Bend Bush, and even some of I think Foster. And that's like –
Richmond Foster would be the west end of it, right?
Yeah. Pecan Grove and all that used to come to Kemp. So anybody from those 2 high schools and almost a third, and I'm not even sure if some people from A-Leaf Taylor used to go there. So there was a much greater pool to pull from back then. And like a lot of these schools, they get watered down. And if you're not one of these Allen, Katy, Plano.
Even Katie's starting to see it now.
Yeah, one of these giant schools. Oh, yeah, and Katie's finally starting to go,
district-wide now,
disperse and go district. So, anyway, that's what's kind of gone on there. But with Akinola, he's a good lineman. They can recruit others at that level. And I'll be interested to see if they continue to recruit him or if they just say, hey, you have this. Here's where I would not be a good coach, and this is nothing against the kid. I want him to do well. I like him, and I think he's a player. I like him, and I like the fact he went to Kempner. But sometimes if I was a coach, I'd be like, we're going to go get other linemen. It's like with a girl. You could have dated me, and you chose not to. So if you feel bad about it later, that's not my problem. That's yours. And the reason why it's not my problem is because I found somebody else. That's what I would tend to do, and then I would screw up because you have seen guys decommit and come back.
A lot recently.
Yeah, and I think because they commit so early and everything's so social and they get so many new offers and so many worlds open up, and I give him credit for not staying committed if he's going to continue to take these visits. Like, there's no need for it. But it's interesting to see what Josh Henson walked into in terms of the 4 commitments. And it was the one position. And
it seems like he's recruiting like he's got a lot of spots. I mean, but he has to.
Absolutely. Look what happened yesterday. So I was scratching my head over kind of where the O-line recruiting was going, and I'm glad that I think Josh Henson's going to come in and inject some energy and I think some real hard work into that.
What do you think of
with the help of Lee Grimes, by the way, who that helps ease that transition so much.
What do you think of Garrett Hayes? Aggie legacy. What did you think when you saw him on film? How would you rate him in terms of where he would fit? If A&M lands him, where would he go in this class?
Okay, I'm going to say this right now. Garrett Hayes on film and as a college football prospect is every bit as good as any O-lineman in Texas.
I agree.
Chad Lindbergh, the great Jalen Garth, who I think is a good prospect, but now he's just ridiculously overrated. The great Logan Parr, who I think is a good prospect, but again, ridiculously overrated because they committed to Texas early, which is insane because you look at him and you look at Logan Parr and you look at Josh Bankhead and you look at where they're both ranked, and it's insane. You can't sit there and watch. You can't watch tape. You can't see them in person and sit there and go, man, that guy's so much better than this guy. You can't possibly do it.
Well, I can tell you this. If Josh Bankhead walked into this room, you would know it was a different kind of dude.
Yeah, so I don't
he looks like Tony Mandarich.
I do understand it. The people need to get better with these networks of not buying into the bias, and they're doing it. And again, do I think if A&M started from scratch today, would they make room? If Logan Parr wanted to jump on board, Jalen Garth, yeah, I do. I think those are good players. So that's not a knock on them, but it's a knock on the system that overhypes them. Garrett Hayes on tape is better than those guys we mentioned. The only thing with Garrett Hayes, and by the way, he weighed like what, 280?
Almost 290.
Over 280 at 6'5". So I sit here and say,
with 11-inch hands.
I sit here and say he's not. The thing with him is he's played 3 sports. He's not just quite as plug and play. But the guy's going to come to college at probably 6'5", 295.
Would you call him a project?
No, he's not. Here's the thing. Not a project. There's a difference between a project and a developmental player. Mm-hmm. A project is, man, he could be great, but he might go the other way. Like, to me, Javon Shepard was not a project or developmental. He was a plug-and-play badass on the field. I have question marks about him, which way he's going to go in terms of, like, socially when he gets to college and his attitude, and you had the stuff at North Fork. Which way is he going to go? He was worth the risk. Garrett Hayes, a project, though, is a guy that you think maybe could have a chance one day. Garrett Hayes is a developmental, as in give him a year and he's going to be a complete badass. Give him a year in the weight room. Give him whatever it is. But at 6'5", 290 and playing the way he does, by this time a year from now, whether it's us talking about Garrett Hayes about to arrive at A&M or see somewhere else,
well, he seems like
I think he's going to be ready to play.
Well,
I really do.
To kind of close the book on this segment and on this recruiting talk, it just seems like he seems like an A&M kid. Mom went here. He's got family ties in town. He's an East Texas kid. A&M still got work to do. This isn't a done deal by any stretch.
Well, that's what I told you. It's not because, Arkansas and OU got the jump on the Aggies. And again,
A&M sat there on their hands forever with this kid.
Well, I don't know that A&M did. I think, it just when you take 4 early O-line commits, and I think your old O-line coach was being overly particular, let's say. So I think, again, Josh Henson, it's going to be interesting because he's built a hell of a career of recruiting developmental guys. Mm-hmm. A hell of a career. At Missouri,
all those Missouri
at
guys,
Oklahoma
like
State,
3 or 4 year starters.
At Oak State, and they go to the NFL. And
like grizzly, ugly-looking dudes that just mauled you.
But here, I think it offers Josh Henson a cool opportunity for him. He's probably excited about it because he can do both.
Yeah.
Because there is a level where A&M you need to go, all right, the O-line recruits need to be as good. Look, we're going to sign Damon Demas and Dalen Wright and Baylor Cupp and DeMarvin Leal and Eric Young and Damani Richardson. We're going to sign all these cats, Bobby Brown. You need to sign them on the O-line as well. Mm-hmm. And
that's good. Everybody else in the conference
and they got Kenyon they got Kenyon Green last year. Well, because you got to have those type guys to block.
Yep.
And Kenyon Green signed last year, so you need to sign the high 4-star 5, the nationally recruited guys, the guys that you have to beat the big dogs for. But there's also a place to go and sign Carson Green, who there's an example of what I would call, like, he's a developmental guy. He's not a project. So anyway, Carson Green, Dan Moore, guys like that, Ryan McCollum. You can still sign guys like that, but now there's not time to sit there and sign classes full of them and go, hey, these guys by year 3, and then this next group by year 3, we're gonna have, you got to have a mix right now.
Sure.
And so that's why I think if you see where A&M's recruiting on the O-line, you'll see that. And like you said, it's wide open for him.
Spring football on the other side of the break. Ron Brauninger, Billy Liucci with you. Beliucci Hour lunch. We'll be right back. Up on Harvey Road. We roll into this weekend. Aggie baseball at home against Gonzaga tomorrow night starting at 6:30. Saturday at 3. Sunday finale at 1 o'clock. Liucci also inching ever closer to spring football, and I want to start on the offensive side and maybe do the defensive side on Monday. Let's go through. I wanted to go through and kind of, as long or as short as you want to make it. Mm-hmm. The biggest job for each coach on the offensive side this spring.
Okay.
So the biggest question they need to answer, chip away at. So let's start with Daryl Dickey.
I think that one's pretty easy. A distant second. I mean, maybe the most important might be the ongoing development of Kellen Mond. Is he ready to take that star turn? Mm-hmm. But the biggest question, and the one that will kind of be more like a prevailing storyline this spring, is you have three guys competing for the number 2 job. One, a veteran in Connor Blumrick. One, a guy who's had a year in the system in James Foster. And another, a true freshman in Zach Calzada. So
we've heard is picking up things pretty quickly.
Well, he's going to have to. I mean, somebody's going to have to. Out of those three, maybe one of the best things for Jimbo Fisher and this Texas A&M team coming out of spring ball will be if they sit there and go, we feel pretty good about this guy as potential backup quarterback. There might not be something better.
If Calzada's not here right now, there's no way he's in that discussion in that short window he would have.
I don't think so, no.
Jay Graham.
Who rounds out the rotation?
Yeah.
Who's your big back? Who rounds out how does the rotation shake out? I think Jashawn Corbin's he's that dude. I think he's a complete stud, heir apparent. But I think the carries will be more spread out. It's not going to be just the Jashawn Corbin show. I think it's going to be not necessarily by committee, but I think you're going to have 3 regularly used tailbacks this fall, with Corbin getting the lion's share. But, Isaiah Spiller could factor into the mix. But then out of the guys here this spring, I think a veteran like Cabote, he's probably one of those deals where if he doesn't stay ahead or pass people and kind of emerge as someone that feels like he's going to get carries, you could see him, the running backs transfer too, like quarterbacks do. So, and there's a lot of them. So the cream's got to rise to the top for Jay Graham, and who's it going to be? I'm really intrigued by Cordarian Richardson and Vernon Jackson as bigger backs. And then, Jimbo got me. I can't wait to see what Deneric Prince brings to the table. So a lot to sort out behind Corbin, and I think that's going to be Jay Graham's biggest question mark.
Let's go to Damian Craig now before we get to the 2 new guys. Biggest question for Damian, or biggest job this spring for Damian?
I think his biggest job is actually – there's a lot of guys that haven't played a lot yet, but I think the single biggest job for him is continuing to build the consistency and can let these guys continue – play in such a way where their confidence continues to grow throughout the spring. And by that I mean Courtney Davis, Kendrick Rogers, and Jamon Osmond. And those guys need to just they finish the year on a high, and they need to keep rising, and they really need to be more consistent than we saw last year.
I'm interested to see how healthy Caleb Chapman
is getting consistent, and Jamon coming back from injury, but those 3 are the big 3. And, Caleb Chapman, but I don't think that's one of his biggest. What was the
biggest job?
Concern? Yeah, I don't think that's – I think Caleb Chapman, though, could play a big role in that, because if he's healthy, he can push those guys and make them continue to practice and perform at a high level. Because you're not going to do that if you're not being pushed.
Right.
And Caleb Chapman is one of the guys that could really sit there and do that. Yeah.
Joe John Finley.
And I think Cam Buckley can do that as well.
Yep. He's the often forgotten man.
But he's kind of that 4th guy too, though. I kind of put him in that other group, like more consistency and just keep building confidence that you can do this week after week against anybody that you play.
Joe John Finley. Pretty simple.
Yeah, that's the easiest one. I mean, he's just got 2.
Ready, yeah.
You got to get Baylor Cup and Glenn Beal ready.
Yep. All right, Josh Henson may have the most to do.
On offense, I would absolutely.
But what's his
I'd say
biggest
he and
job?
Daryl Dickey. Even though you got
Yeah.
the starter, even with the starter, you got to get him ready to be a superstar. So, well, I think for Josh Henson, the first order of business is to find his center. That's first and foremost, and then the second part is, he's got to get these guys. This spring is going to be an acclimation process to his coaching, not just how he motivates and inspires them, but the technique stuff that he's going to be teaching that might be different than Jim Turner, and he's got to figure out how to get them to soak in and get that message. And there's a lot that goes into that. And then finally, again, he's replacing 40% of his own line and 2 starters. So there's some shuffling that might go on. There's a lot of options, and then you also know in the back of your mind that Kenyon Green's coming in.
Do you think
June.
he stepped into a bigger job in terms of what he needs to do than most people realize? Like, it's got to be the most to do on the offensive side, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
Because of the amount of guys you lost. I mean, you
But-
lost
but-
2 starters, and
but-
Hawker was out most of the season, and
you lost 2 stars. I mean, here's the thing. Fine, most O-line coaches in the country are replacing probably at least 2 of their 5 starters. I would say the majority, whether that's 60% or 80%, the majority of O-line coaches are replacing 2 starters. So then you combine it with you're coming into a new system. Well, that happens a lot as well. There's a lot of movement O-line wise. So, does he have probably more to do than any other offensive coaches? Yeah, well, he's also one of only 2 new ones. I'm sure Joe John Finley would step in and raise his hand and go, I've got a pretty big job too.
At least what Henson's working with is experienced guys. I mean, Joe John's having to get 2 guys ready to play.
Yeah.
That one has never, and one played sparingly.
Yeah. So my thing is, here's the plus side. Josh Henson's worked with Jimbo Fisher, so at least he's familiar with the scheme. And both those guys are coaching positions that are really they're put in positions to succeed in this offense. The running game, you're allowing these O linemen to put their hand in the dirt finally and block, and you're committed to the ground game and things like that. And then the tight end is used so prominently and prolifically in this offense, so that at least they're in positions that are, you're not coming in like Jim Turner maybe when he came in with Kevin Sumlin's O line was kind of being asked to do some stuff that he wasn't used to doing, and ask those linemen to do some
Another
stuff.
thing I'll be interesting to see what Josh Henson does is how we got so used to Jim Turner, things would be said a certain way, and then a week before they start flip-flopping and mixing and matching. And remember the Congo line coming in and out of the Arkansas game. What is Josh Henson's little niche going to – like, I'm so interested to see, is he going to find 5 and say, I'm going to ride it out with these 5 and see how much better they can get, and is he going to make flip-flop guys later?
I'd be surprised if he did that.
His
That was one of mine.
evaluation on the talent here, I'm interested to see.
Yeah,
where they fit.
In terms of that's not stuff that you commonly see, and that was always kind of a little point of frustration for me, as most of you know. But they had a good O-line last year. It was solid.
It got
and
better.
Jim Turner did a good job of getting them better as the year went on. So I was happy. We didn't see the shuffling last year. We didn't see a backup line of 5 guys coming in, no matter what your reasoning was. That was not optimal or even didn't make sense. But
It was a tight game, a tight conference game.
there's
Early.
multiple tight conference games, and we'd see it. But I do like the way they finished the season last year. I do like the way guys like Green and McCollum and Moore were developing. That was very encouraging. So, it's up to Coach Henson and those guys to continue that development.
On the other side of the break, we'll close the show with your question from here at the Tap. You're listening to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on The Zone.
For your car, your home, your business too. Acme Glass takes care of you. For over 60 years, we're the clear leader. Our quality and value keeps shining through. For repair and replacement on all kinds of glass, you can trust Acme for quality that lasts. Where quality and value keep shining through. Acme Glass, we're the clear leader.
always looking for a place to meet friends, grab some food, relax, and unwind with a cold beer, mixed drink, or glass of Boots Sweet Tea? The Tap on Harvey Road has been the place to do just that for nearly 30 years. A casual atmosphere and tasty food keeps people coming back for more. Our burgers, salads, chicken tenders, nachos, and more are sure to satisfy whatever craving you have. And being in SEC country, the Tap is a great place to meet before, during, or after the game. See you at the Tap on Harvey Road in College Station.
There's a Kubota for every job. There's a Kubota for every harvest. There's a Kubota for every task. And at Normandy Tractor, for a limited time only, take the drive to Normandy and let Vernon and the boys show you what they have ready for the new year. Get the new Kubota L2501 DT 24.8 horsepower tractor loader with quick attach bucket and 5-foot shredder now through March 31st for a cash price of only $15,800 or payments as low as $160 per month based on 20% down, 0 APR for 84 months. And remember, most any trade-in can be your down payment. Normandy Tractor has over 8 acres of Kubota tractors, Kubota RTVs, ATVs, and Kubota mowers to choose from. Remember to shop additional Kubota package deals on the web at normandytractor.com. For the lowest prices and largest selection, shop Normandy Tractor, voted best of the Brazos since 2002. The corner of Highway 39 and OSR in Normandy, and remember, nobody beats Normandy Tractor. Nobody.
What do basketball, choir, drama club, and marching band all have in common? They're all high school activities that offer learning opportunities not necessarily found in the classroom. They take up just a fraction of a typical Texas high school's budget, and they go a long way to giving young people the tools they need to thrive. High school activities, they're more than extracurricular. They're extra important, too. This message presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association.
Huge announcements, none bigger than this.
This is a special programming announcement from the head offices of the Zone Management Council and the Governance Association. Well, really, Louis just wanted me to pass this along. Coming soon, the Zone 102.7 FM will be moving to 93.7 FM. With the move to 93.7 FM, the Zone will be 24/7, 100% uninterrupted. Day or night, indoor or outdoor, Bryan College Station, Sports Radio 1150 AM is going nowhere. But coming soon, the Zone will be moving to 93.7 FM.
Closing the show on a Thursday, Ryan Brauninger, Billy Liucci with you from here at the Tap on Harvey Road. Beliucci Hour lunch. Stick around. Louis will be on the other side of this final break to take you through the rest of the afternoon into the Paul Feinbaum show, I believe.
It's pitiful. Man.
What?
I'm just laughing at this music thing. We can't use any
Well, it's
good
live
music
streaming.
anymore.
There are people that want to listen to us all across the globe, Luch, and so we can't.
I would rather
copyright
not
issues.
live stream and be able to play real music. But
Well, you're
whatever.
I mean, what's wrong with you today? You seem a little bit.
I'm a little grumpy.
Yeah, flustered, grumpy.
Not
like
flustered. I'm not flustered at all. I'm calm as can be. I'm grumpy because I have a cold. I don't like
When
it.
did you get it? Credit to you for getting out of the house. First of all,
girl coughed on me.
Time out. Credit for you for not complaining for the last 12 hours to me about this.
Good, because that's what you do.
No, absolutely not.
Billy, I don't feel good. I'm gonna lay in bed for the next few hours.
You know, as much as you talk to me, I would figure your impression would be better.
It's an exaggerated impression, which is what makes it funny.
Oh, you have to tell people why it's funny.
If I want to I have to tell you. Other people, John's laughing. The front tables, people get it.
They're
You
not
don't.
laughing. They can't even hear it.
Yeah, they can. Look, see?
Yeah. So you didn't complain about it, and this is the first that I'm hearing about it, and you came to work. This is unbelievable. You're turning over a new leaf.
She coughed on me. I went outside at dinner. I could tell she was getting sick. She double dipped. Then
I'm surprised.
Then
you
she went.
walk
Then,
out
then
on
she
her.
went to walk her dog and left. Like I got.
Did you tell her she was doing this as it was happening?
Yeah, I did. So I got over to her house after her, and she said, "I'm walking my dog." I said, "All right." She was like, "I'm walking out to walk my dog." And I thought she was going to let me in. And then
No.
I was left standing in 20-degree cold while she walked her because she didn't know I was there. And then I said, "Okay, I'm sick now. My lips are chapped. My nose is stuffed. It's ridiculous."
Well,
all because of a double dip. You guys laugh about that?
You go to lunch with Liucci. It's very particular. There's a certain set of rules that you need to follow. Questions from here at the tap. Bronny and Liucci basically asking, will Josh Henson be looking for anything different in his recruits than Jim Turner was?
Yeah, I'm sure, but I have no idea, exactly what. But, yeah, I'm sure he'll be looking for a little bit. Every O-line coach likes a little bit different, whether it be body type or how they're going to project or, what do you value more? Do you value the physicality? Do you value the athleticism?
The film, yeah.
And everybody wants to see a guy that they believe, man, that's a tough son of a gun. Mm-hmm. That's universal. But from there, it's kind of to each his own. We'll see how he recruits. It'll be pretty interesting to see. Like I said, I think he's going to get the best of both worlds here. I think he's going to get guys that can develop and turn into ball players, and then also get guys that are like Kenyon Green that everybody in the country wants.
Is Kyler going to go number 1 overall?
I feel like he is. I've heard
he's not doing well in the interview process.
Who'd you hear that from? Charlie Casserly?
No, that was on Twitter. Somebody said it's like they feel like they're interviewing two 6-year-old or two 12-year-olds in a grown man's body.
That was a Twitter joke. That was a joke.
That was from like a scout deal, wasn't it?
No, that was a joke. It was like two 6-year-olds stacked on top of each other. What you're getting
I thought it was from the mental standpoint. That's what they were talking about. Not from
I think you're getting
stature.
maybe there's two of them. It's the similar joke, but the one I saw was like two 6-year-olds stacked on top of each other. It was a joke. But what you're getting at is what Charlie Casserly said, which is that he's not interviewing well. It doesn't surprise me. Like, here's the thing. There's this thing that you can't. I was listening to The Ticket in Dallas the other day, and it's like you'd have thought he was, he is an Allen High School product, an Oklahoma guy, but they're so loath to believe any criticism. Well, it's just kind of, it's kind of they would say it out loud like, well, maybe it was, maybe it was, but you could tell they didn't want to believe it and like kind of throw water on it and say, well, it's Charlie Casserly saying that, and he might have heard from one person that heard one thing. And how about the fact that maybe his interviews sucked?
Yeah.
But
if there was one part of this that you thought he would be bad at, it would probably be the interview.
Yeah, and because people at A&M and people at OU, at A&M he was a true freshman. They didn't let him interview. I've heard plenty about him not being very media friendly in Norman and Lincoln Riley and them not forcing him to be so. Not showing up, being late for things. And so he didn't get to practice. And he is also his father's son. There's some surliness there, okay? That's not why you don't draft Kyler. Like, what would concern me is if his teammates didn't like him. And that would be a concern. And that's what I think. Forget about if you can't handle Kevin Murray. Kevin's a tough dude, and I like Kevin's at his heart, he is a good person. He is, and I know that because I know him. But if you can't handle him as an NFL head coach or GM or franchise,
why is he even
that's
meddling?
Ridiculous. But it's ridiculous that an NFL franchise should even worry. Don't worry about that, except for the baseball part, because there is that leverage thing.
Don't think for 1 second they wouldn't use that.
Yeah, I would be concerned about that, and I would be concerned if you were getting reports that his teammates didn't like him and that his locker room didn't like him. And I think the group was split at A&M. I think the veterans didn't, but I understand that because he's coming in as a true freshman and there was this quarterback shuffle. The younger guys seem to really like him. You see them still stay in touch. And the OU guys certainly, the OU locker room certainly liked him. And he didn't seem to make much noise backing up Baker for 2 years. I mean, to me, Kyler is a very tough one for me to figure out. Usually I feel like I know the kids and I do know Kyler. He's a tough one to figure out. And I would love to see – I'm so fascinated to see how this thing goes. Do I think he'll go number one? Yeah, I think Cliff will pick him. If Cliff doesn't, then where does he go? That's where it gets really, really interesting. And, man, I have a hard time betting against him, but everything about this thing makes me think it's not going to work at the NFL, except when I look at his history as a football player and an athlete.
Yep.
And a winner. It's hard to root against. I mean, it's hard to bet against him.
Not sure we're going to I'm going to text Louie about next week's show because it is spring break. Not sure we'll be back here on Monday. Check the social media, Facebook, Twitter. I know Front Table.
That you might have checked before the show.
Yeah. Check. Maybe Front Table has a fax that y'all get sent out. I don't know. But we'll keep y'all updated on what's going to go on Monday. If we're not back Monday, we will see you guys after spring break. Have a safe and wonderful weekend. Ron Brauninger, Billy Liucci, Louis Bellina is on.